I started wearing the hijab to school when I was in the fifth grade. My friends and classmates were really curious about it and asked me all sorts of questions. But the one question I very clearly remember them asking me was, "Is your dad making you wear it?" I remember laughing because that seemed so absurd to me. Why would my dad force me to wear the hijab? In fact, both he and my mother wanted me to wait a couple more years before wearing it because they thought that I was still too young, and I had to convince them that I was ready. But throughout my adolescence, this was a question that I was asked over and over again. Did your dad make you start wearing it? As I grew older and I began to understand the world better, the question started to bother me more and more. Because regardless of the intention behind it, the insinuation was that my dad was a stereotypical Muslim man who forced the women and girls in his family to cover up. That he was some sort of religious fundamentalist or extremist. And this question also hinted that people believed that I couldn't possibly willingly choose to cover my hair. I must do so because I'm an oppressed Muslim girl. These experiences are an example of microaggressions, and we can look to psychologist Dorald Su for a definition. According to him, microaggressions are, quote, the everyday slights, indignities, put-downs, and insults that people of color, women, LGBT populations, or those who are marginalized experience in their day-to-day interactions with people, end quote. They can come in the form of an intended compliment or joke, but regardless of intent, there is a hidden insult about a group of people that will cause hurt, frustration, or anger. And for those people who would argue that microaggressions aren't a big deal, consider that they are rooted in larger trends of oppression which cause minoritized people to experience significant disadvantages in all spheres of life: economic, social, cultural, and political. In the educational context, it is up to teachers to educate their students on what microaggressions are, what forms they can take, and why and how they are harmful. And if we're worried that some of our students may resist because they feel uncomfortable looking inwards and recognizing and addressing their own prejudice, we can serve as role models. We can center ourselves in the discussion. In fact, for those of us who are minorities, we can speak openly and honestly about our own experiences with microaggressions. And given our role in the classroom, this can help our students empathize more easily with other victims of oppression. But I think it's just as important to consider the roots of microaggression so that we can help our students understand this issue better. Obviously, there are many different reasons for why we harbor prejudice, such as parental and family influences, peer influences, or just overall ignorance. But I think the one that teachers should focus on is the media. After all, with the technology that is available to us, there are so many different mediums through which we are bombarded with imagery and representations of other people. There are movies and TV shows, talk shows, advertisements, news channels, and more recently, even TikToks. And children and teenagers are spending more and more time experiencing the media. In fact, I remember when I was in high school, it was very rare for any of my classmates to have a cell phone. At most, some of my friends had iPods to listen to music. But nowadays, you'd be hard pressed to find a single student in high school or even middle school who doesn't have a phone. After all, the Ontario government didn't ban them from classrooms without reason. In fact, the Kaiser Family Institute completed a study in 2010 that showed that adolescents between 8 and 18 years old spend around 7.5 hours a day with the media 7 days a week. I mean, that's about half the time that they're spending awake. So why does it matter that our students spend so much of their time experiencing different forms of media? Well, unfortunately, despite the progress we've made as a society, media depictions of people, and especially minoritized people, still tend to be stereotypical and harmful. For example, Özlem Sensoy and Robin DiAngelo discuss a 2016 Tide campaign featuring Olympic gymnast Simone Biles in their book, Is Everyone Really Equal? The campaign, called Small But Powerful, makes a connection between Simone's strength as an athlete and the strength of Tide laundry detergent. The problem is, though, that the ad starts off by focusing on Simone's athleticism and power, showing her competing in a gymnastic competition and winning a medal for her efforts, but then it switches over to show her doing laundry. And sure, lots of people do laundry. I'm sure Simone does her own laundry too. But as pointed out by Sensoy and D'Angelo, it's not very often that we see male athletes, or even men in general, performing household domestic tasks in advertisements. So this particular ad will serve to strengthen stereotypical beliefs about women being domestic. So if we know that our students are being subjected to these depictions day in and day out, and we want to prevent them from internalizing prejudicial and stereotypical messages, what can we do? Well, we can start by acknowledging issues with the media and promoting media literacy. It's imperative that we teach our students how to engage with the media critically, to ask questions instead of taking things for granted. We can also provide our students with examples of media depictions that aren't problematic and which center the perspectives of marginalized people who aren't often depicted in informed or nuanced ways. Above all, though, we need to ensure that our own classrooms are safe, respectful environments where bigotry and even microaggressions will not be tolerated but rather addressed head on. If we do that, I believe we'll be able to make the biggest difference of all.